Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum students. How are you? Are you all right? How was the last lecture? Did you find this new textbook challenging, easy? How was that? Did you open it? All right. Because in the last lecture we started, rather of course the book I recommended you earlier, that was Practical English Language Teaching by David Noonan. Fine, and I showed you that book as well. And of course we are now following this book. We have finished the earlier by Larson, right? Techniques and methods we have talked about. We had a lot of discussion on that, and now these days we are working on what? By Practical English Language Teaching by David Noonan. Clear, students? All right, so ready? Fine. So what is the practice? What do we do, my dear students? Do you know it? Yes. So as usual, first of all we repeat the last lecture, all right, or we review the last lecture, or we see that lecture again, right? By the way, why do we do all these things? Do you have an idea? Why in every lecture? Today is which lecture? 22nd. Fine. How many lectures are to go? Okay, do you know still we have 10 more to go? Fine. So my question was, why do we do that? In every lecture you have observed that whenever I come, I review the last lecture, I give you summary of the previous lecture before I start the new lecture. Why do I do that? Yes? What do you say about it? Do you have an idea? Okay. I want you to recap. Good, fine. So whenever I come and I start a new lecture, so I review the last one. Why do I review? So that you have an idea, you can link this lecture with the last one. And you know, dear students, that you see sometimes because of the time constraint we finish one area, in fact, and the topic is going on, right? I mean, example is last week we talked about listening skill, and we started listening skill, right? And why? Of course, I tell you why we talking about listening skills and why we are focusing on essential skills of language learning these days. So we started listening skill, and today definitely we will complete that skill for teaching perspective, for teaching purposes. So why? Once you recap the previous lecture, so what happens? The point is, once we recap, so you get an idea, you can link this lecture with the previous one, and again the things that we will discuss in this lecture, yeah, you can create, fine, a bridge. That so in fact you could say that this summary that I give you in every lecture, it creates a bridge between the lecture to be started, and definitely since that is a summary of the last lecture, so that creates again a link with the last lecture. And you know that of course we are talking about different methods, and of course we're talking about different skills nowadays. So if you have an idea of the last area, last topic we talked about, so what happens? You see, you can easily move on. So we have an idiom, you can easily pick up the thread. Clear? What is the idiom? Pick up the thread. P-I-C-K. Pick up the thread. So where we left last week, and then we start again. So what is the point? The point is you can easily move on. Is that clear? Do you understand? Are you with me? All right, good. So let's start. Let's review this lecture, the last one that we have talked about. So we were in 1970s. There was an approach that was CLT, Communicative Language Teaching, and there was a shift. In fact, there was a shift in the paradigm. There was a shift, fine, but it was a shift, my dear students, that of course shift from that the old traditional concepts of the grammar, the vocabulary and other components of language. So shift from that approach, those components of language to what? Communication, right? So there was in fact a major shift was there, a major paradigm was there. So why? That, and in this paradigm in particular, this shift was in language teaching. So linguists in fact they began to look at language a means of expressing meanings, right? Before that, our views were that language is what that consists of symbols, and the grammar is very important part of language, and vocabulary is important, and all that we talked about earlier. So there was a shift, you see, and then shift says that yes, language is a vehicle of communication. Language is a means of expressing meanings, of course. So if you are able to express your meanings, if you are able to convey your message to your listener, it means language is working. So this was a shift, and linguists they started thinking over it, that language is a vehicle of communication. Language is a way to express your messages to your listener, in fact. So there was a shift that we see. Then what happened? What are the outcomes of this shift, my dear students? So this shift brought what? A profound effect, a good effect, in fact, on language teaching methodology. Because definitely once there is a need, and we realize that the need, we identify that the need, and then people in fact start thinking of that language, we learn language, and the purpose of language is to express your feelings, you convey your message, in fact. So that was the purpose. But the point is that earlier, of course, the focus was on other components of the language. The grammar was there, the syntax was there, you see, vocabulary was there, but we realized that, well, we are not fulfilling the purpose. The purpose of language is to communicate, and for that, you see, there was a shift, and linguists started thinking, fine, and then what happened? This shift, in fact, this change in thoughts, change in opinion of the people, so brought what? A change in what? Teaching methodology. Definitely once we feel that one teaching methodology, in fact, just enhances grammatical skills of the students, just improves vocabulary of the students, but these students are unable to express themselves, unable to communicate their messages, which means that you see that language is not serving the purpose, that language we teach, so we realize it. And then that of course the shift brought change in teaching methodology. So what happens then? This change of course gave birth to this approach, CLT, communicative language teaching, in fact. So what happens? Again, there were two versions of this CLT. In the earliest version of CLT, meaning was emphasized over form. See, that meaning is important, right? Form, meaning was, of course, in the earliest, again, before that, shift was that grammar is important, the form was important. But in the earliest version of CLT, we saw that meaning, in fact, right, of course, meaning was emphasized over form, right? That form is not, but the meaning that you express is more important. Similarly, fluency over accuracy. Fine? Definitely. In CLT, we say that we let the communicator communicate the language, and we try to improve communicative ability of the learner. Fine? And we want to enhance fluency of our learner. We create activities so that the learner would be more fluent. And we feel that, well, accuracy is there. CLT does not say the accuracy is altogether out. CLT says, yes, accuracy is there, but it comes automatically. It comes naturally. Once you try to be fluent, and you will see that you listen to yourself, others listen to you, and you of course have accuracy as well. Fine? Well, students, so I was talking about this earliest version of CLT, which says that, well, the meanings are emphasized over form, fluency or over accuracy. So I was talking about that, yeah, we realize it that, well, fluency is of course important and accuracy comes automatically. We have this accuracy later on, provided the communicator is communicatively strong. Fine. So that was the shift, and this shift in fact gave birth to this CLT. And earliest version of CLT says, what does it say? That, well, the meaning, of course, meaning is emphasized over form. Again, the form means the syntax. Fine. And then also fluency is given more value than accuracy. Clear, students? Fine. So then this earliest version of CLT paved grounds, in fact, fine, for considering communicative needs of the learner. Definitely we see that the learner is important, learner needs are important, fine, and once we realize that fluency is important, once we realize that meanings of course of a message are important, so again we moved on and we saw that, yes, communicator, since we feel that communicator wants to communicate in that language, so his communicative ability should be improved. So that's why we see that the communicator's needs should be kept in mind, should be considered. So that's why this version also says that we need to in fact refine this CLT with communicators' perspective, and we call that, you see, that of course this CLT should be aligned with the needs of the learner, and we call that, well, this needs based approach. Fine, we reinforce learner centered education, mean the learner is important, so learner is given value, learner is given what? Importance. Why? Because learner has to express his views, learner needs to be fluent, so his needs are to be fine, to be definitely his needs are considered, and his needs are to be fulfilled. Is that clear? So this is what, considering this, we in fact this CLT of course approach was refined, and we termed it as what? This, learner centered education, that language teaching should be learner centered. Then what happens in the recent years? Of course the broad approach known as CLT has been realized methodologically by task-based language teaching. So again mean that move on, of course, what? That now, since we considered that the learner is important, fine, and then again, since learner is important, and of course how learner can in fact improve his communication or his communicative abilities. So how? If learners are given some tasks, right, and we call that approach learner based approach or the task based approach. Why? Because you see that the task based teaching in fact is effective for the teachers, and the task based learning is useful for the learner. Once a learner is given some task, and these tasks, but in foreign language teaching, these tasks are the activities, fine, activities that a learner performs while learning that language. So once he performs those activities, he involves himself in those activities, what happens? So he learns, right? He learns well, his learning enhances, and he becomes more communicative. Is that clear, students? Fine. All right. Just reviewing the last lecture, my dear students. So then, this was the last lecture we talked about. You see that, of course, the point is that how, of course, a learner is important, and what was the shift, right, that gave birth to this versions of CLT. The earliest version of CLT and what the later versions of CLT, and again that CLT2 TBLT, task-based language teaching. Fine. So today's lecture is what we'll talk about: principles for language teaching methodology. Right? Remember, we're talking about skills. Talking about what? We're talking about skills, and last week we started talking of listening. Remember that listening is an important receptive skill, right? Which skill is of course, listening is an important receptive skill. So listening improves your speaking, right? And again, when I use this listening skill, immediately you go back to the method where listening is focused. Which method, my dear students? Total physical response method by James Usher. Remember that? So what he says that, well, lot of listening is important. Lot of listening is important. Fine. The more you listen, the better you would be. Fine. So that's why, of course, now these days we are talking about listening skill, that why listening is important. Fine. And how, being TEFL students, we need to know about this listening skill, and how can we improve listening skills of our students. When you are TEFL expert, so how or what can you do to enhance listening skills, to improve listening skills of your learners? So for that, yes, you are the teacher. First of all, you have to see, in fact, you being learners, you being instructors, you have to think over your own listening skills. Is that clear? Fine. So moving on to what? Principles for language teaching methodology. Just examples I'm giving you. That what happens, my dear students, you see, remember we started talking of the method, of course, right? Methodology. So what are the principles for language teaching methodology? These are some principles. Focus on the learner. Remember that. You see, we need to focus on the learner, right? My dear students, again I want to recap it with the previous lecture, that in the last way we talked about all the methods. Fine. And we in fact started off the method. What is a method? And remember, we talked about, yes, curriculum development, we talked about syllabus design, we talked about methodology, we talked about evaluation. And today we are talking about some principles for language teaching methodology. So first principle is focus on the learner. Learner is very important. Fine. So when you talk about language teaching methodology, so your learner is important. Like we see, a while from now I talked about CLT, and in CLT, yes, that the learner, of course, in later version of CLT, learners were given importance, and we call it learner-centered education or learner-based education or learner-based teaching. So when you talk about the principles of language teaching methodology, so first principle is that we being TEFL teachers, we being TEFL students, we need to focus on the learner. Who is our learner, in fact? Is that clear? So again, need analysis of the learner, in fact, that what are the needs of a learner. So that's why, my dear students, of course, good institutions, what they do before launching any program, any study program, institutions, what they do research on that. Fine. And in that research they try to find out that what would we teach, for example, and what do learners, what do in fact trainees, what do students would need, in fact, what are their needs. For example, if you want to improve presentation skills of your learners, so you do a research and you go to the market, you visit different organizations, so you will try to find out that in presentation which areas they want to work on. Do they have problem in facing the audience? Do they have stage fear? Or do they have problem in language? Fine. Or do they have problem in organizing their thoughts? or the learner have the problems, of course, in you see expressing themselves. So I mean, once you do this need analysis, you will perform this need analysis, you will be able to design that course as per the needs of the learner. So that's why once you may get some projects, once you complete this program, companies might contact you, organizations might contact you to improve language skills of their staff. So you being good TEFL teacher, what you would do, my dear student, you would perform need analysis of the students. So in need analysis, of course, you will see that what are their real needs. Fine. So then you will try to design your curriculum. So your curriculum development would definitely, yes, would base on the need analysis of the learners. If you don't do that, for example, so then it would be difficult for you to manage that course, to teach those students, because then you would do, in fact, you would be in the air, of course. You would not know their needs, and you may be failure there, of course, because if learners want to improve their speaking skills and you try to give, you make activities for the writing skills. So again, we don't say that writing is not important, but the learner need is what? Speaking skills. Is that clear, students? So the first principle is focus on the learner, and in that, definitely, the first is that you need to know, you need to perform need analysis. Fine. So what? Learners are involved in their learning processes. So again, it says you being teacher of a foreign language. So what? You have to involve the learners again. How will you involve? Right? Of course, you may have approaches. Which approach would you want to follow? Would you apply the student-centered approach or the teacher-centered approach, or both the teacher and the student-centered approach? Remember that, students? Are you all right? Fine? Good. So this is the point one, my dear students, that what? Focus on the learner, right? And involve the learner. How? By designing creative activities, by incorporating, by using, in fact, activities from the real life. It's important. So how can you again further to this, then further what can we say about it? That again, learners are given a focused. There are two dimensions of involvement. There I told you that involve the learner, but the point is, how can we involve the learner? So there can be two dimensions. First is what? The involving learner in making decisions. Now, which decisions mean? Like I said, need analysis. What to learn? Fine. The learner's involvement in making decisions. Which decisions? What to learn, how to learn, and how to be evaluated. Clear and important. What to learn? For example, skill. Which skill? Right? Learner want to improve their writing skill. Learners want to improve their speaking skill. So what and how? Right? How to, which activities, for example, and then how to be evaluated. Evaluation should be done during the course, or at the end there should be a formal evaluation. So again, this is of course we can call it that a kind of involvement. See, and whose involvement? Your learners. Second is maximizing the class time. Now here it means that maximizing the class timing means, my dear students, that give more time to the learners. In fact, if you are a language teacher, so students are there to learn that language. If you being teacher, you keep on speaking. Well, students, so we are talking about focus on the learner, in fact. And what we do, we need to involve the learner. And we discussed there are two dimensions, fine, of this involvement. Fine. And first dimension is that what we need to involve the learner. And how can it be done, my dear students? You can ask, what do they want to learn? And how? And third thing is that how evaluation should be done. That is the first level of what? Involvement. Is that clear? Second involvement was that the maximizing the class time. You see, so what does it mean maximizing class time, my dear students? Yeah, give more time to the students because they are there to learn the language. You are there to help them out. Many a times you might have seen that, well, sometimes the teacher comes and he starts speaking on and on and on, and the learner, the poor learner, remains quiet. So yes, this is for the teacher, it's fine that he polishes his skills, he practices speaking, fine, but definitely he is there for a job, in fact. So if learners go, in fact, disappointed, so if the learner go without learning that language, fine, and it means they have missed that, they have wasted that hour, fine. So that's why maximizing the class timing, again it means that, again, for the sake of audience involvement, for the sake of students involvement. So for language classes particularly, students come to learn language, so you need to give more time for learners than the teachers, in fact. This was what mean the first principle was focus on the learner. So clear, very simple, that involve the learner. How to involve the learner? Again, there can be two dimensions of that involvement. First, yes, the question is what do they want to learn, and how, methodology, see, and how evaluation will be done. So how can we involve learner? There are some tips, very simple, you know it, that make instructional goals clear to learners. Again, once you give instructions, right, so learners should know it. Fine, whatever instruction goals you want to achieve, learner should know that why you are exploiting this skill, fine, and the learner would keep those in mind as well. Then help learners to create their own goals. Again, once you have some goals, every good teacher has its goals, every method has its goals, in fact. We talked about earlier while talking of methods. So here again, by instructional goals, fine. And next, that what are the goals of the students, fine, and help learners to create their own goals. That, well, what are their goals, fine, why are they here for, in fact, what do they want to achieve, fine. So again, their goals, and then help the learner to use that second language outside of the class. Again, environment, ask them to use this, to communicate in this language. Like good institutions, right, they do not let students, in fact, speak in any other language except for the target language. And you see that in that situation, the learners improve more as compared to an institute where they don't care for it. Like if you visit a good foreign language teaching center where you don't find anybody talking in Urdu or any other language, so you will find learners talking in the target language. So that situation, that environment really enhances the learning of the language. So that's why you can make environment, you can create environment in the center where you are teaching, so that learner would use the language, they would speak that language of the class, of the that teaching session. So again, help learners to become more aware of learning processes, and strategy is important, right? That how do learners learn, in fact, fine, they should know it, because again we talked about that, you see, every learner has what? Different capacity, different, in fact, style of learning, and help them to explore, in fact, to research how do a particular learner learns, in fact, and give learners what? Opportunities to make choices between different options in the class. Yes, again, definitely, if you give them this chance, that they would be able to choose, right? Again, the point is that yes, if you give this liberty to the learners, that they can choose, in fact, fine. So again, this point is that of course you are helping learners in the learning process. So it means that of course students, the learners have their choices. So if they give a choice, in fact, those choices will be entertained as per the requirements. And teach learners how to create their own learning task. Yes, important. What can they do, in fact? Yes, in a class, for example, there are some constraints that, well, language class is there, but again, we cannot expect that people who attend a language class, they attend that the course for 30 hours or for 60 hours or for 90 hours, and we expect that they would be communicating that language and that they would be, of course, the best in that language. But again, the point is, you see, so help learners that they would create their own learning tasks, of course, of the class once you go back their home, if they are genuine learners. Fine, if they really want to learn the language. So these are some tips, in fact, you can help learners. Fine, of course, and you can involve learners in the learning process. Fine. Second principle, my dears. First one was focus on the learner, and we talked about dimensions. There are 2 dimensions of this focus, and then we talk about how can you involve learner in the learning process. Second principle, my dear students, what is it? You know that? Yeah, develop your own personal methodology. Mind you, we are trying to help our learners how to be, yes, in fact, what we are doing, my dear students, talking about the principles for language teaching methodology. Clear? Because definitely you are a student of TEFL. So you need to know what could be the principles, fine, for foreign language teaching. So first principle, focus on the learner. Second principle of this methodology, which methodology? Language taking methodology is develop your own personal methodology. This is important. Every learner has its own style of learning. So is the case for the teacher. Clear? So you being teacher, you need to have a methodology that how would you respond to errors? How would you interact with the students, in fact? Would you always interact with the students in a formal meeting, in a class, or you may in fact ask students to come out? Or if a student makes a mistake, so how would you respond to it? There are 2 examples here. So 2 examples, there are 2 examples, and then see the response of the teacher. How teacher corrects a mistake. In the first example, you see that, of course, what the teacher says, the past tense of the work is worked. So he corrects. In the second example, oh, you worked very hard for your project yesterday. See? So this, in fact, the first one is that the teacher corrected him. In the second way, the teacher gave him the correct version, right? So now you see that, of course, people believe that the second version, the second approach is better than the first one. But again, we cannot say it for surety. Fine. Again, it's debatable. Every teacher has its own style. Fine. Every teacher has its own style for correction, in fact, to respond to the student's correction. Is that clear? So it varies, and like learners, so is the case for the teachers as well. Is that clear, students? Fine. So that was the second principle. You need to develop your personal methodology. Since, remember, we're talking about principles for language teaching methodology. First principle, focus on the learner. Second, develop your own methodology. Third principle, my dear students, is what? Build instructional sequences based on pre-task, task, and follow-up cycles. Definitely the pre-task is before teaching. Clear? Right? Again, we call it warm-up stage, for example. So what? Again, motivation of the learner is important. Clear? So for that, you see, pre-teaching or the pre-task is important. We may also call it the warm-up stage. So involve the learner for the activity that you are going to perform in the class, so that they would have, I always say, that once you have this warm-up session, once you have this session successfully, you will find learners involved. You will find learners motivated. Fine. And they create folders in their mind. So once you come to the core task, I mean the main task, what happens? The learner can easily save that data in this respective folder. Is that clear? So that's why this sequencing is important, the pre-task in fact, and then what? The task, and finally mean follow-up cycles. So that is again a principle that when you teach, of course, that what is the pre-phase, mean the pre-teaching we call it, or the warm-up phase we call it. So that phase is what? To involve the audience. That phase is to create interest of the audience. That phase is to what? In fact, to give some items, fine, either vocabulary items or the expressions that would be there in the activity, so that again you could give them the goal of that why this activity is there, and you see, or you may ask the learners what do they expect from this thing. Anyway, so the pre-task of course is important, or the warm-up stage. So it creates interest of the learner, simple, and help build schema, again the relationship, the background, SHEMA, schema. Fine. What is schema, my dear students? The background knowledge. So once you do this pre-phase successfully, so again student might in fact link it with the schema, with the background knowledge. So what happens? They help build, and then again you can give them some of course unique features of that activity, and then you come to the task, the main activity of the class. What is it? Right? Either it is a role play, or it is a repetition, or it is what? It is a dialogue. See? So come to the activity, and even before the dialogue, for example, so you see, you can give them, I mean a model can be given, or you can talk about the importance of dialogue, fine, or maybe of course you give them some items that you want students to learn in fact, and then at the end what? The follow-ups. You see, that is, I mean again is a stage where people, I mean you ask the feelings of the students, you ask for the feedback, right? Or again it's the production stage. So to get feedback from students, see, for more examples you can please refer to your books. Is that clear? So this is the third principle, that sequencing. What is the pre-task mean? Before teaching, right? And then what are you teaching? It may have some steps, the procedures in fact. At the end, what? The feedback, the follow-up. Is that clear? So first principle, focus on the learner. Second principle, yes, your own methodology. Third one is what? You see, sequencing of your task, main task, and of course the follow-ups in fact. The fourth principle, my dear students, what is it? The classroom techniques and the task. What to do in the class now? Fine. So what can we do in the class? Yes, of course there is, if you see on your slide, make a note of things you have to do this week. There is a table on the slide. You have afternoon, you have evening. Fine. Then you have days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then at the bottom you see that now work with the other students, arrange a time to go on hiking. You might have to change your schedule. So once this is an activity where a table is given to the students and they have days of the week, and what happens? The timings are there, the morning and the evening, and fine, first students make their schedule and then they have to find time for hiking as well. So again this is like an activity in the class, that what happens, people would communicate, they would in fact agree with the schedule or they disagree with some schedule, and then they would try to find out, of course, the way to find time for hiking or whatever the activity is there. Clear? So what level of proficiency do you think the task above is designed for? Communicative in fact. Yes, again people will predict also, right? Prediction would be there. One again in information is there. Fine. So this table is given and the student would predict, student would in fact give information, they would exchange information. So this can be the activity, of course. So this fifth principle is methodology in the classroom. So again, which methodology you use, of course, what is the method in the class, either it is a direct method, of course, or that audiolingual method, or it is what communicative language teaching is there, in fact, fine, or it is what CLL, community language learning, is there, or it is in fact total physical response method is there. And under that method, what are these principles and what are the techniques that you're using? So again, there are maybe you have a dialogue, of course, you can give a dialogue to the students, you can give them a model, in fact, and at the end you see. So again, with methodology, of course. So this is the fifth principle: focus on the learner, your personal your personal methodology, fine. And of course, if you go back, fine, see sequencing. Fourth one is classroom techniques and tasks, and fifth one is methodology, which method you will use, in fact, for teaching. And this is what, my dear students, we come to an end of this topic, methodology. So in this way, of course, we define what is a method. It is the study of the practices and procedures, right, of course, that we use in the class. And you know that method, of course. What is a method? Again, method is comprised of your principles and techniques, fine. And then we talk about that this curriculum development. What is curriculum development is there? We talk about syllabus design, and we talked about methodology, and finally evaluation. Is that clear? And then we talk about principles of foreign language teaching. These principles you must know. Principle first, the focus on the learner, very important. Second one, your personal methodology, right? Third one, in fact, what? The language task, activities. Fourth one, if you go back, if I show you again, the classroom techniques, sequencing, classroom techniques, and fifth one is methodology. So this is what all about the principles for language teaching methodology. Clear? Today, now we are going to talk about skills, in fact, right? Language skills. Definitely when you being teacher, what do? We teach different skills, right? So whatever language you are teaching, in our case, of course, English language, you will be English language teachers. So definitely what you will be doing in your organizations, if you are a language trainer, language instructor, or language teacher. So being language teacher, wherever you are the teaching, of course, considering the environment, you in fact teach all the four skills, fine. And again, why we teach four skills? Because this is the natural way of learning a language. We have seen children acquiring language. And how do children acquire language? Because what? That they listen. Children, in fact, acquire their first language by listening, in fact. So then they start speaking, and then reading, and finally writing. See? So this is what a natural process of language acquisition. Fine? So this is, that's why, of course, now we have realized that even learning for a second language, again, the process, of course, is the same. Again, we see, we teach four skills to the students. So that's why today, in fact, we're going to start how to teach four skills. And my dear students, from today onwards, fine, we'll be talking about all the four skills. We'll have lectures on it. In fact, we'll talk about listening skill first, then we'll move on. Today we'll start listening skill, then we'll move on to speaking skill, fine, and then of course reading skill and writing skills. Is that clear? Then if you find time, we'll move on to, of course, language skills, particularly, of course, about this is what exploring, skills and exploring language. Fine. These days we are exploring skills of language, and then we will explore language, that pronunciation, grammar, and all that. And finally, again, if you find time, we'll talk about how can we, in fact, support learning process. Is that clear? So today we are going to start formally, in fact, what? Exploring language skills. So how many skills? 4 skills. Clear? You might be thinking, well, students, so let's start these skills, right? And I told you the book name, Practical English Language Teaching by David Noonan. That book, in fact, is really useful. Why? Because the book compiles, in fact, fine. sources from different experts, right? And the earliest article, of course, on methodology was by Lunan, and this one that today we are going to talk about, language skills, it is by Mark Helgenson. Fine. So here what is listening, by the way? Very simple, of course. You use this word listening, of course, and you must have heard, of course, this term. You must have listened to this term in, of course, previous methods we talked about. So it's an active, purposeful process of making sense of what we hear. Very simple. Active, right? It is not passive, but active. That's why we say active listening. So it is active, and then again it's a purposeful. We listen for a purpose, fine, of making sense of what we hear. Is that clear? That is what listening. And again, people say that language learning, of course, that to learn, of course, to language learners, listening is challenging, right? And of course, if you generally people feel that listening is difficult skills, one of the difficult skills, of course, for learning a foreign language. So again, why it is difficult, we will see, in fact, right? There are a lot of, the factors that make this skill difficult. So you know what is listening? It's an active process. It's of course is a purposeful, and again make sense of what we hear, and it is challenging as well. Let's see listening skill, how listening skill works, and what are the ways to help learners become more effective listener. This is our objective. This is what being a TEFL instructor, and why you might be thinking that why we are talking about these skills now. We have talked enough on methods, and which are important. So why we are talking about listening skills? Because we have to be, of course, good language teachers, foreign language instructors, foreign language consultants. So that's why, or again foreign language users, in fact. So once you know, once you know how language is learned, once you know how language is taught, so even you are not, for example, in this industry, you, of course, you would be enjoying the benefits of these techniques that you have learned for communicating, for teaching a language, and also techniques for being learner, in fact. That's why I have given this point in the bold. You can see that how LS language skill works, and what are the ways to help learners become, this is our objective, become more effective learners. Wherein? In listening skills. Some people say that listening skills are passive one. Why? Because you just listen, right? That the speaker speaks and you are listening, there is no activity on your part. You are just getting in things, in fact. This is a misconception, of course. Otherwise, you see, listening itself is an active process, and of course, by listening, you give response. You have to respond, my dear students. Clear? You understand? No? Difficult? Simple, my dear students. Of course, listening, what is a process of what? Receiving. How do we listen? Here, what is it? 2 ears, all right? 1 tongue. So Allah has blessed us with 2 ears. To listen more, speaking less, all right? You can say that, well, but obviously, my dear students, the listening, here, you listen more and then definitely you speak. So it means that you need more listening for speaking. 1 tongue is enough. These articulators are enough for speaking, but again, you need input. Total physical response method. All right, so let's see how can we move on. So some people, in fact, they categorize listening skills again as receptive or productive skills, in fact. What? Receptive skills. Fine. That you listen. Their listening skills are, of course, categorized as receptive skills. Well, students, so what is it? Some people, in fact, they call listening skills as passive skill. And why? Because we just listen, there is no activity. This is one point of view, my dear students. Okay, what happens? No, listening is categorized as what? Receptive skill, because you receive Fine? And then you communicate, then you produce, in fact. Whereas speaking and writing skills are what? Productive skills. Fine? So listening and reading, they are receptive because you receive. Fine? And then you produce, that is what? You produce writing or what? Speaking, in fact. So if you go back to this 1995, the Buck, of course, a researcher, what he pointed out in an assumption that listeners simply decode messages is mistaken. Like generally we say that when I listen, I decode a message. So he, in fact, talked about this point and he criticized this point that it is not that you just listen to a message. Meaning is not in the text, but it is something that is constructed by the listener based on a number of different knowledge sources. This is what it is said. That you see, generally we say, well, I listen and I get the message. No, it is not that much, of course. So, and this Buck, of course, this researcher, so he said, no, it is not that you just listen to, of course, a text. But what do you listen? You listen to the speaker, in fact. You listen to, definitely, you see, you listen to what? Different things. I mean, to listen to the thoughts constructed by the speaker, in fact. You listen to the background, in fact. Is that clear? So, you listen to emotions also. Fine? So, therefore, this is the point that, of course, you see what it happens. Well, students, so this is what I mean, that it is not that if I get a message and it works. So, again, what happens? That we listen to a speaker and that listening is what? A listener constructs, in fact. What does he do? So he tries to listen to the background, listen to, in fact, of course, the knowledgeability of the person. Sometimes when you listen to the speaker, of course, you try to, of course, see that where is he, in fact, what is he saying, right? What is his tone and all that. Fine? So we come to know how? Through different knowledge sources. Knowledge of language, the context, right? General background, listening is meaning based, in fact. Clear? So definitely once you listen, you try to get some meaning, in fact. So listening is meaning based. It can be said that we listen to meanings, and yes, we listen to meanings behind the words. We don't listen words. Fine? What do? We listen to the meanings behind the word. Alright. So my dear students, I'm talking about the listening, and I told you that we listen what? The meaning behind the words. Right? Words are there, but we don't listen on words only. We try to get the message behind. Fine? And then of course learners, what they do, they comprehend a message according to their schema, according to their background. Fine. What are the similarities between listening and reading? Both are receptive skills. Fine? Listening is receptive, reading is receptive. What are the similarities, of course? Yes, both give you information. Both give you data, in fact, and you process that. Fine? What are the dissimilarities, differences between reading and listening? So, listening happens in real time. It's a real time activity, of course. You are listening to it, and you have to act accordingly, in fact. You cannot wait that, well, I will go back home and I will do it. No, you can't do that. It's a real-time activity. Fine, you are listening to me? Fine. And you are giving me a response. Are you giving me a response? Yes, you are. I can see your face. You are happy. Yes, motivated. Fine, then you will be good. TEFL students. Fine. So, yes, I can see you. You are doing well. You are doing a very good job. Right? And you know that, well, this is very important subject. You know its importance, and that's why you're putting in efforts. You see? And you will see the outcome of this. Once you will put efforts, you will see the outcome. Very soon you will see the outcomes, in fact. Once you will be in the market, and people would buy you like hot cakes. You know hot cakes? Yeah, very good, of course. In winter, of course, right? See, hot cakes, see? Fresh cake, for example. So, my dear students, this is one. That what happens? Real time. Then also mean definitely this listening happens in the midst of conversation. Yeah, it's going on. You listen, somebody speaks, in fact. Right? So, something which requires productive spoken responses as well. I hope you understand. This is what mean there are some differences. So to teach listening skills, we need to start thinking about your own LS. Yes, you are going to teach listening skill, you are going to help learners in this skill. So for that, start from yourself. See, talk of your listening skills. What problems you face when you listen to a native speaker? Clear? So, I mean, if you feel that you can easily talk to a native speaker, you don't have any problem, why is it so? Maybe you are exposed to that language. Or if you feel that you only get 40%, 30% of that message, it means you are not exposed to that language. Children these days, for example, they watch cartoons, they watch their different English programs, so they can easily, in fact, they can easily get the message, of course, given by a native speaker. Whereas if the children are not exposed to language, so it would be difficult for them. They would take much time to start listening, in fact. Clear? So this is what differences are there. So dear students, today at the end of the lecture, we talk of what? Yeah, initially I gave you methodology. We finished talking of methodology, the topic that we started last week, in fact. So today we finished that, and we talked about principles of language teaching methodology. We talk about focus on learner. We talk about what? See, that sequencing. We talk about what? Your methodology. You talk about all these principles. Fine? Language methodology, learner, personal methodology, instructional sequencing. Fine? The pre-task, task, and of course follow-up task. And then we started talking of listening skill, and we saw listening is a receptive skill, right? And then we saw, of course, that what is listening itself? It is an active, purposeful, fine, way of getting message, fine, to make sense out of it, right? And then we saw that, of course, I mean, good listeners are good speakers, fine. And then, of course, an active process, so active involvement in this process is a must. And then, of course, we saw that how learners can, of course, improve their listening skills. This is what we talked about in the lecture. We will continue talking about listening in the next lecture as well. So it's a time to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Yes, aren't you? Good. I should have said, yeah? Okay. You are enjoying it. You want to continue? Okay. We'll continue, inshallah, in the next lecture. So, my dear students, these skills are very important. To teach these skills, and to, of course, to learn these skills are also important, being a learner and being a teacher. So for a good TEFL student, we need to have grip on these skills. We need to know how can we teach these skills successfully. So these lectures would definitely help you, of course, in teaching these skills. And again, those methods would definitely we talked about would help you here as well. So thank you very much. See you in the next class. Till then, it's Allah Hafiz.